Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bernard Schwartz, director of the 92nd Streetwise Unterberg Poetry Center, and it's my privilege to welcome you all to the opening of our 70th anniversary season, a celebration of Maurice Sendak. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those individuals listed in our printed program whose significant contributions as benefactors, patrons, sponsors, and muses have helped to make this new season possible. I would also like to thank the Gladys Kreibel-Delmas Foundation for its support of tonight's program. One quick housekeeping announcement. While Mr. Sendak's books are on sale tonight, courtesy of Barnes & Noble, there will not be a signing following the show. And now, please welcome Michael Goldstein, chairman of the board here at the Y.
Thank you, Bernard, and welcome to the season opener of the Unterberg Poetry Center, which has presented the very best in literature for 70 years. Before we commence with what promises to be an extraordinary evening, I'd like to say a few words about the Y. The 92nd Street Y is many different things to many different people. The Y is known for its art classes and literature series, its gym, classical music, concerts, and of course its wonderful lecture program. What people don't know is the Y also should be known for its free literacy, arts, and science education programs that serve New York City kids. Each year, the Y provides 8,000 New York City public school students free programs in literature, the visual arts, music, drama, and science, both in school and at the Y. Inserted in your program is an overview about this program, which costs about $1.4 million and is very much dependent on contributions. The Y has been working in the New York City public schools for the past 20 years and has witnessed a decrease in arts and science opportunities for our kids. For many, the Y is the only link they have to in-school arts instruction and live performance. It is a very big part of the 92nd Street Y's mission to give every neighborhood kid a chance to discover what makes him or her special, and perhaps will encourage the next Maurice Sendak, Tony Kushner, or Meryl Streep to flourish. You never know. So thank you for coming tonight for the opening session, and now on with the show.
Good evening. My name is Eleanor Reissa, and I'm honored and delighted to be here tonight. Wo de wilde Gaies zennen, Meisjes in Bilde von Maurice Sendak. Die Nacht, wenn Max hat getragen sein Wolfkostüm und gemacht Kunzen, und noch Kunzen, hat ihm die Mama gerufen, wilde Gaie. Hat Max gesagt, ich will dich aufessen. Hat man ihm geschickt in Bett rein und essen. Dieselbe Nacht in Maxes Zimmer ist ein Wald ausgewachsen. In gewachsen, bis auf den Soffit sind gehungen Kletterblätter. In der Wand sind geworden wie die Welt arem. In a Jam hat sich vorbeigekulliert mit a private Schiff für Max und ist weggeschwommen durch Nacht und Tag und Woche rein und Woche raus, kemat über ein Jahr, bis zu wie die wilde Gaies gefinnen sich. Und wenn ist angekommen zum Ort, wo die wilde Gaies sind, haben sie gebrummt, sehr schreckliche Brummen und gekritzt, sehr schreckliche Zähne und verglotzt mit den schrecklichen Augen in gewissen, sehr schreckliche Krellen. Bis Max hat gesagt, sei still. Und sie beruhigt mit der Kischef-Kunst durch Glotzen in ihre Augen, ihre gelben Augen und ein Pintel. Und sie haben sich erschrocken und haben ihm gerufen, der wildste Chaie von sie alle. Und ihm gemacht vermählich von alle wilde Chaies. Und jetzt hat Max ausgeschrien, soll sein a wilder Tummel. Jetzt, hört auf, hat Max gesagt. Und weggeschickt der wilde Chaies in Bett rein, und wetschere. Und Max, der Melech von alle wilde Chaies, ist gewesen einsam und hat sich gewollt sein dort, wo Emetzer Otim am besten lieb. Dann, von allen Seiten, von der Ribbe der gore Welt, hat der schmeckt gute Meicholim, hat Reif gegeben zu sein, der Melech von Ort, wo die wilde Chaies gefinnen sich. Aber die wilde Chaies haben geweint. Oh, wir beten dir, geh nicht da weg. Wir wollen dich aufessen, wir haben dich so stark lieb. Und Max hat gesagt, nein. Die wilde Chaies haben gebrummt, sehr schreckliche Brummen und gekritzt, sehr schreckliche Zähne und verglotzt mit den schrecklichen Augen und gewissen, sehr schreckliche Krellen. Aber Max ist rein in sein privaten Schiff und mit der Foche hat sich gesegnet. Und ist zurückgeschwommen über ein Jahr und Woche rein und Woche raus und durch ein Tag und rein in der Nacht von sein eigenem Zimmer, wo sein Wetschere ist gestanden grät. Und es ist noch als gewesen heiß. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, Maurice. My name is Eyal Danieli, and I feel like I owe Maurice an explanation why I'm here. I grew up in a bilingual family that spoke English and Hebrew. My parents spoke Yiddish when they didn't want us to understand. They knew Yiddish because my grandparents spoke Yiddish. In fact, my Lithuanian grandmother didn't really consider my Polish grandmother's Yiddish. When I met Maurice 20 years ago, the first thing he asked me was, "Do you know Yiddish?" I said I didn't. I just knew a few words that receded into the consciousness or subconsciousness, and I said to him, one thing I remember is my mother coming home and saying, when she'd see the mess that me and my brothers would make, she'd hold her head and go, "Wilde Chayes, wilde Chayes." Maurice looked at me with a look that I could only define as incredulous, compassionate scorn. It's a look that you have to, well, at least I had to grow used to with Maurice once in a while. A little while ago, a few months ago, I was sitting with my aunt, one Anne Glickman, who couldn't be here tonight, a survivor who speaks perfect Polish Yiddish, and we were wondering what would be a fitting gift for Maurice's 80th birthday, and telling her that story, we figured what would be a better tribute than to translate Where the Wild Things Are into Yiddish, and that's what you just heard. So, Maurice, from one Wilde Chaye to another, on behalf of Wilde Chayes everywhere, I say to you, thank you, and sei gesund und stark, and we'd eat you up, we love you so.
Hi, I'm Spike Jones, and this is Catherine Keener and Lance Bangs. And Catherine's going to translate my speech into Yiddish. So, we all love Maurice and have a long, loving relationship with him. And one of the benefits of getting to know him, and other people that know him and love him will vouch for this, is his sharing of his stories with us. And some of them are totally absurd, some of them are totally perverse, some of them are totally false. Stories of his family, of his childhood, of Brooklyn. And so in return, Maurice, and I don't know where you're sitting, Maurice, so in return for your memories that you've given us, we've recreated one in this film that we shot last week for you. And so we hope you enjoy our attempt at recreating your memory. Okay.
All right.
When I was a kid in Brooklyn, the four-family house, where all the immigrants lived, we were immigrants. And it was only my sister and her hard-heartedness when she was young, because she had to take care of me, so she was always pissed off at me. I think I told you this one, 1939 World's Fair. I was screaming to be taken. I had to go with an older person. And she had a new boyfriend. And somehow she talked him into accepting the idea that they would take me along. Very vexing, very vexing. And I was the seventh heaven. I just loved it. And we stopped at the Sunshine Bakers, little fat bakers, and they're all standing in tears on white platforms. That whole place was so like a 1930s movie, white, Carole Lombard white. And all these little midgets came out, little tubby guys with little black mustaches, and they were going like this. And the aroma of fresh baking came out of the building. They're probably pumping it out into the air, and I just stood there breathing the smell of bread. And I love the smell of baking bread. And I was just waving back. and they dumped me while I was in this trance. My sister and her boyfriend ducked out. And I turned around. And within 3 minutes, I was crying. And they took me to the police station, where there were about 150 kids all crying, all dumped. And but I could speak. I was about 11 years old. So I gave my address, and they called my parents up. I heard my mother's frantic voice on the phone, and the cop called and says, we're going to have a lot of children here who are, he put it kindly, lost. which most of them probably were just lost, unlike me, abandoned, and that they would get me home. And they put me in a police car. We dropped off a couple of kids, and happily when we got to my street, I was the only one left in the car. And they asked us to please put the siren on, please put the siren on. They put the siren on. And I could see coming up, my mother had told everybody, so everybody in the neighborhood had their windows up. All the mothers were leaning out on pillows to watch, and the kids were pointing to me in the car. And when I got out of the car, there was 2 tall cops on either side of me, and they walked me up the stairs to the apartment. And there was, in the background was my sister, like that. And I pointed, I said, she did this to me. She got rid of me. And my father turned and whack, 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 and beat her up right in front. And I thought, there will never be another day as good as this as long as I live.
Hello, my name is Linda Emond. Happy birthday, Maurice. I have the pleasure of reading Maurice's story, Outside Over There. When Papa was away at sea and Mama in the arbor, Ida played her wonder horn to rock the baby still, but never watched. So the goblins came. They pushed their way in and pulled baby out, leaving another all made of ice. Poor Ida, never knowing, hugged the changeling, and she murmured, "How I love you." The ice thing only dripped and stared, and Ida, mad, knew goblins had been there. "They stole my sister away," she cried, "to be a nasty goblin's bride." Now Ida, in a hurry, snatched her mama's yellow raincloak, tucked her horn safe in a pocket, and made a serious mistake. She climbed backwards out her window into Outside Over There. Poor, foolish Ida, never looking, whirling by the robber caves, heard at last from off the sea her sailor papa's song. If Ida backwards in the rain would only turn around again and catch those goblins with a tune, she'd spoil their kidnap honeymoon. So Ida tumbled right side round and found herself smack in the middle of a wedding. Oh, how those goblins hollered and kicked, just babies like her sister. "What a hubbub," said Ida sly, and she charmed them with a captivating tune. The goblins, all against their will, danced slowly first, then faster until they couldn't breathe. "Terrible Ida," the goblin said, "we're dancing sick and must to bed." But Ida played a frenzied jig, a hornpipe that makes sailors wild beneath the ocean moon. Those goblins pranced so fierce, so fast, they quick churned into a dancing stream, except for one who lay cozy in an eggshell, crooning and clapping as a baby should. And that was Ida's sister. Now Ida, glad, hugged baby tight, and she followed the stream that curled like a path along the broad meadow and up the ringed-round hill to her mama in the arbor with a letter from Papa saying, "I'll be home one day, and my brave, bright little Ida must watch the baby and her mama for her papa who loves her always, which is just what Ida did.
Hi, I'm Stephen Greenblatt. I'm Maurice. Be not afraid. This isle is full of noises, sounds and sweet airs that give delight and hurt not. Sometimes 1,000 twangling instruments will hum about mine ears, and sometimes voices that if I then had waked after long sleep will make me sleep again, and then in dreaming the clouds methought would open and show riches ready to drop upon me, that when I waked I cried to dream again. Though these magical lines linger between sleep and waking, and though they mingle fear and delight on a strange island, they're not, as many of you will already know, from one of Maurice Sendak's books. They are instead from Shakespeare's The Tempest, where they're spoken by Caliban, the savage and deformed slave of the magician Prospero. There he is, played by Henry Beerbohm Tree as Caliban in 1904. Prospero is a great European prince, marooned on a remote ocean island, where he commands not only Caliban, but also the winged spirit Ariel. The scene Shakespeare draws is at once exotic and oddly domestic. An old father and his young daughter playing house together, with the kitchen help of the island's sole native. The native was not always condemned to menial chores. He was once treated as a member of the family until something he did, or rather wanted to do, an impulse, a violation of the rules, a lawless desire, called down heavy punishments upon his head. Those punishments are weird, as befits a magician's terrible power, but, and I say this as someone whose normally gentle mother would pinch me fiercely when I did something wrong, and she would mutter, wilde Geier. They too, these punishments, have something oddly domestic about them. For this, be sure tonight thou shalt have cramps, side stitches that shall pen thy breath up, urchins, and you'll see in the second one of those urchins, a hedgehog, shall forth at vast of night, that they may work all exercise upon thee. Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than the bees that made them. For all of his exotic otherness, it's not clear whether he's human or an animal or a demon. Caliban is a child, impotently tyrannical, volatile, at once pathetic and enraging. He is, therefore, what we've already heard called a wilde Geier, and he is therefore the Shakespearean antecedent of Maurice's immortal Max. For if I've been speaking of Shakespeare while showing you images from Maurice's work, it's because I believe that there is between the Renaissance playwright and the modern artist, whom we honor this evening, a deep affinity. It keeps turning up in odd ways, as in this higgledy-piggledy pop scene from Hamlet. The affinity is in part, no doubt, a matter of influence. Maurice is steeped in high culture. Many of you will have noticed Mozart playing in Outside over there a minute ago. But it is still more a secret sharing, an instinctive fascination with some of the same half-hidden springs of human aggression and fear and longing. There are obvious links in Maurice's work to A Midsummer Night's Dream, with its mysterious moonlit forest, its mischievous fairies, and above all, its strange preoccupation, still unexplained by critics 400 years later, with the figure of the stolen child, the changeling. Maurice shares, too, a powerful, empathetic identification with what Shakespeare calls unaccommodated man, the poor, bare, forked animal in all his nakedness and vulnerability. This from We're All in the Dumps with Jack and Guy. And like Shakespeare, he is drawn to look directly into the face of absolute evil. That evil is not allowed to triumph in Brundabar, any more than it's allowed to triumph in King Lear or Macbeth. And yet there is, in Maurice's images of resurgent goodness, as in Shakespeare's, the same poignant undertow that afflicts the happy restoration of order. Here's the page of the happy children saying the wicked never win at the end of Brundabar. But I think all of us feel something that's tugging underneath that triumph. But it's not in the early comedies or the great middle tragedies that I feel the most intimate connection between Shakespeare's work and Maurice's sensibility. It's in those strange late plays known as the romances. Here, Shakespeare turned to stories of children stolen from their parents and then miraculously found again, stories of wicked stepmothers who take advantage of fathers in the grip of sloth or depression, stories of sudden violent outbursts of mad jealousy, stories of terrifying loss, and the sweet autumnal experience of reunion. This from Dear Millie. During his lifetime, Shakespeare was ridiculed for this unexpected turn in his work. This is a man who had written Hamlet, King Lear. Ben Jonson snorted contemptuously that his rival was now begetting tales, tempests, and such like drolleries. Drolleries. It was for Jonson as if Shakespeare, near the end of his career, had ceased to be a serious artist and had started to write children's books. But the author of The Winter's Tale and The Tempest didn't care. He understood that to reach down to the deepest wellspring of creative power, he needed to explore the child that was still miraculously alive and intact within him. The courageous ability to plunge into that strange innermost being as into a dark, fathomless pool is Maurice Sendak's special gift. And it is the indelible sign, like a birthmark, of his Shakespearean inheritance. That inheritance, so rare and so precious, commands our gratitude and our wonder. It means that long after we have all vanished, like breath in the wind, Maurice's work will continue to give its intense, mysterious delight. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Next, we will present some highlights from an operatic setting of Maurice Sendak's Higgledy-Piggledy-Pop by the composer Oliver Knussen. Chase down the world when he loves me here. What is this hunger for more than my sweater? even have a little bag. A little bag he gave me. A bag all black with golden buckles. What is this hunger? This fierce appetite for something out there when everything's here. What is this longing, this craving, this pining, and incessant whining for something out there? Is this everything? Is everything only this? Is this all there is to everything? I cannot call my dream by name, but it calls Jenny just the same. I'll put everything inside and sniff what's outside over there. In the middle of this night, in that very far away, there must be something more, there must be something just for me. There must be more to life than having Shall I tell you a true story about your egg? Good. Did you ever hear of Chicken Little? How she thought the sky was falling down and ran home all the way in such a fuss she simply could not eat. She simply could not eat. Well, wouldn't you know it wasn't the sky making all that roar, but only a lion out hungry and hunting. And he chased Chicken Little and caught her quick and opened wide his reeking jaws. Said Chicken Little, before I die of sky all night, she wasn't very bright. Let me lay a little egg, I beg, before I remembered by. stiffens my feet. There are no balls to eat from. There is nothing to eat. There is nothing to eat. Smashed, and I feel strangely Jenny's story is told. There is nowhere to be. There is nowhere to go. There must be more to life than having Hello. As you probably noticed, I went away forever. I am very experienced now and very famous. I am even a star. Every day I eat a mop. Twice on Saturday. It is made of salami, and that is my favorite. I get plenty to drink too, so don't worry. I cannot tell you how to get to the castle yonder, because I don't know where it is. But if ever you come this way, look for me. Jenny.
was his deep desire to become a ballet dancer. And so he was insistent on lessons every day. He put on his tights and he looked great. But he took his class seriously, worked very hard. He didn't become the ballet star that he had hoped to be, but he is a star. He twinkles in our lives and brings light to our everyday living. We miss you, but we love you. Seattle, the Northwest, and P&D all thank you.
So, Maurice, we all convene here tonight to thank you for helping us to remember to always turn the backside into the front side.
Good evening. My name is James Gandolfini. Happy birthday, Mr. Sendak. I have the pleasure today to read The Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak, and it's for Sadie and Philip. Did you ever hear of Mickey, how he heard a racket in the night and shouted, "Quiet down there," and fell through the dark, out of his clothes, past the moon and his mama and papa sleeping tight, into the light of the night kitchen? We're the bakers who bake till the dawn so we can have the cake in the morn. Mix Mickey in the batter, chanting, "Milk in the batter, milk in the batter, stir it, scrape it, make it, bake it." And they put that batter up to bake a delicious Mickey cake. But right in the middle of the steaming and the making and the smelling and the baking, Mickey poked through and said, "I'm not the milk, and the milk's not me. I'm Mickey." So he skipped from the oven into bread dough, all ready to rise in the night kitchen. He kneaded and punched it and pounded and pulled till it looked okay. Then Mickey and dough was just on his way. And then the bakers ran up with a measuring cup, howling, "Milk, milk, milk for the morning cake." What's all the fuss? I'm Mickey the pilot. I get milk the Mickey way. And he grabbed the cup as he flew up and up and up and over the top of the Milky Way in the night kitchen. Mickey the milkman dived down to the bottom, singing, "I'm in the milk and the milk's in me. God bless milk and God bless me." Then he swam to the top, pouring milk from his cup into batter below. So the bakers, they mixed it and beat it and baked it. "Milk in the batter, milk in the batter. We bake cake and nothing's the matter." Now Mickey in the night kitchen cried, "Cock-a-doodle-doo," and slid down the side, straight into bed, cake-free and dried. And that's why, thanks to Mickey, we have cake every morning.
Hi, I'm Dave Eggers. I'm stunned and so happy to be here. To wish Maurice a happy birthday. Maurice has been a sort of a towering hero of mine since I was a kid, since I could speak or think, and I grew up wanting to be him, and to that end wrote and illustrated so many terrible knockoff books that are all burned now. But right now I'm working on another sort of knockoff, which is a strange-sounding project called The Wild Things, which is actually a novel based on a screenplay based on an illustrated book. But we can blame Maurice because it was his idea, I swear to God. I'm going to read a few pages from this where someone quite like Maurice has a cameo. This takes place before Max leaves for the island. He lives at home with his mom and older sister. In science class, Max was staring up at the model universe dangling from the ceiling when something his teacher, Mr. Scola, was saying caught his attention. Of course, the sun won't always be here to warm us. Like all things, the sun will die. When it does, it'll first expand and will envelop all the planets around it, including the Earth, which it will consume rapidly. Max didn't like the sound of any of this. He looked around, though none of the other students seemed to be listening closely. Mr. Scola continued, "The sun, after all, is just fuel burning ferociously, and when our particular star, a painfully average one, I should say, runs out of fuel, our solar system will go dark permanently." Max had a sick feeling in his stomach. There was something about the words "go dark permanently" that didn't sit well with him. This was the very worst lesson Max had ever heard in school, and there were 15 minutes left on the clock. Mr. Scola turned and pulled down a map of the world. But before that, the human race will likely fall to any number of calamities. Self-inflicted or not, war, radical climate change, meteors, spectacular floods and earthquakes, super viruses. Now he turned back to the students with a look on his face that was almost cheerful. But what am I talking about? You and everyone you know will be long gone by then. When the sun is extinguished and the world is crushed like a grape in the collapsing jaws of time and space, we'll be long forgotten. The human race is, after all, just a sigh in the long, sonorous sleep of this world and all worlds to come. Mr. Scola paused to pick a poppy seed out of his teeth. Okay, that's the lesson for today. Have a great weekend. At home, Max decided to go for a quick bike ride before dinner. He was going to tell his mom he was leaving, but then he didn't. Oh well. He burst out into the cold and sped down the driveway. In the wide, barren stage of night with its single spotlight, he could finally think. He needed to think. His thoughts sometimes behaved like the scattering birds who lived on the land near Max's home. Everywhere on Max's block were quail, strange flop-top birds reluctant to fly. One moment the quail would be assembled in a straight row, a family, eating the seed from the ground with one standing guard atop a low fence post, watching for intruders. Then, with the slightest sound, they would scatter in a dozen directions, swerving and disappearing into the thicket. Every so often, Max felt his thoughts could be straightened out, that they could be put in a row and counted, that they could be made to behave. There were days when he could read and write for hours on end, when he understood everything said to him in every class, when he could eat dinner calmly and help clean up and then play quietly in the living room. But there were other times, other days, most days really, when the thoughts did not line up, when he felt that he was chasing the various images and words and impulses as they split and veered away from him, hiding in the thicket of his mind. And it seemed that when this happened, when he couldn't make sense of something, that on the heels of the scattering quail, he did things and said things that he wished he had not said or done. He sped through the cold night, riding one-handed, then no-handed, then with his head slung back, squinting at the emerging stars. He whistled quietly to himself, then louder, then hummed, then sang full-throated. It was a quiet night, and he wanted to slash it open with his own voice. "Ah, shut up, you," a voice said. Max recognized the voice. It was Moishe, or the man whose real name Max barely knew and couldn't remember. Anyway, the man had told Max to call him Moishe, and he did. Max had just passed him and his dog, Odysseus. He circled his bike around. "You shut up," Max said back. Moishe laughed out loud. He was an older man, maybe 60 or 80 or 100. Sorry. Who, it's from the kid's perspective, you know. Who lived down the road and was often seen walking slowly and steadily for hours at a time through the streets and paths and forest, always with Odysseus, a dog easily as big as Max and with an aristocratic bearing. The animal was so perfectly bred and well cared for that it looked like a dictionary etching of a German shepherd. Odysseus knew Max well and was already laying on his side, urging Max to scratch his stomach. Max dropped his bike and did so. "So, Maximilian," Moishe said, "how the hell are you?" "Okay, I guess," Max answered. "I got in trouble." "Oh, yeah? What'd you do this time?" Max looked up. Moishe's eyes were dangerously alive and punctuated by brows so thick and mischievously arched that he seemed at all times to be plotting a great and dastardly plan. Max told him about his sister's friends trapping him in the collapsing igloo, how he had almost died, how he was so angry he wanted to murder the world, but instead soaked his sister's room with water. "What'd you use?" Moishe asked. "A bucket?" Max nodded. "Yeah, I would have used a bucket too." Max smiled. This is why Max loved him. He was an equal. He was a boy. He seemed to have navigated his way through 7 or so decades of adulthood without forgetting one moment from his life as a child, everything he loved and hated, feared and coveted. "So what?" Moishe said. "Boys are supposed to get in trouble. Look at you, you're built for trouble." He and Moishe stood in the night. Far off, a dog or wolf howled. Moishe was looking up at the messy silver stripe painted across the dome of the sky. "Is the sun gonna die?" The question tumbled from Max's mouth, unrehearsed. "What? Who said that?" Moishe's eyes were alight with something between fascination and fury. "A teacher at school," Max said. "How would he know that?" he said. "And what kind of cretin would say that to you? Look at us, Max, we're big. How can big, huge guys like us worry about a tiny little thing like the sun?" This made a lot of sense to Max. He smiled privately as he buried his hands deeper into the fur of Odysseus, who groaned with pleasure. The dog's murmurs and musky smell reminded Max of his own wolf suit at home, which he had not worn in months, but which seemed like a good wardrobe choice on a night like this. And suddenly Max was very hungry too, and he thought of food and the warm light of his kitchen. He got on his bike and turned it toward home. "See you later," said Max, beginning to pedal. "Be good," Moishe said as Max sped away. Or not. Thanks a lot.
Birthday, Mr. Sendak. I'm Chuck Cooper.
Happy birthday, Maurice. I'm Alice Playten.
Happy birthday. I'm Aisha the Haas.
Happy birthday. I'm Denis O'Hare, and we are singing a song from Really Rosie called Pierre, music by Carole King. And Kimberly Grigsby is accompanying us on the piano.
There once was a boy named Pierre who only would say, "I don't care." Hear his story, my friend, for you'll find in the end that a suitable moral lies there. I don't care.
We'll never ever get to town.
I don't care.
If only you would say I care.
I don't care.
We'd let you fold a folding chair.
I don't care.
So his parents left him there. They didn't take him anywhere.
Now as the night began to fall, a hungry lion paid a call. He looked Pierre right in the eye and asked him, would you like to die?
Pierre said, I don't care.
I can eat you, don't you see?
I don't care.
And you will be inside of me.
I don't care.
Then you won't have to bother.
I don't care.
With a mother or father.
I don't care.
Is that all you have to say?
I don't care.
Then I'll eat you if I may.
I don't care.
So the lion ate Pierre.
Arriving home at 6 o'clock, his parents had a dreadful shock. They found the lion sick in bed and cried, Pierre is surely dead.
They pulled the lion by the hair and hit him with a folding chair.
His mother asked, where is Pierre?
And the lion answered,
I don't care.
His father said, Pierre's in there.
they rushed the lion into town. The doctor shook him upside down. And when the lion gave a roar,
Pierre fell out upon the floor.
He rubbed his eyes and scratched his head and laughed because he wasn't dead.
His mother cried and held him tight.
His father asked, are you all right?
Pierre said, I am feeling fine. Please take me home, it's 9:30.
the lion said, if you would care to climb on me, I'll take you there.
Then everyone looked at Pierre,
Who shouted, yes, indeed, I care.
The lion took them home to rest and stayed on as a weekend guest. The moral of Pierre is
Hello, I'm Meryl Streep. Hello, Maurice. Last time we saw each other, Tony and I were cast appropriately as rabbis in Angels in America, and so, improbably, were you. And we had a wonderful lunch together and tried to pick the egg salad out of our stick-on beards, and we laughed and scratched. And when I left the tent, you turned to Tony and said, "Who's the Altacocker?" So then I learned Yiddish. Happy birthday. I'm going to read The Sign on Rosie's Door. I'm going to read chapter 1 and chapter 4 because they wouldn't let me read 2 and 3, so you'll have to buy the book. The sign on Rosie's door, chapter 1. There was a sign on Rosie's door. It read, "If you want to know a secret, knock 3 times." Kathy knocked 3 times, and Rosie opened the door.
Hello, Kathy. Hello, Rosie. What's the secret?
I'm not Rosie anymore, said Rosie. That's the secret.
Then who are you?
I'm Linda, the lovely lady singer.
Oh, said Kathy. And someday, said Rosie, I'll sing in a great musical show.
When? Kathy asked. Now, in my backyard. You want to come?
Can I be somebody too? Asked Kathy.
Rosie had to think for a minute. I suppose, she said finally, you can be Cha-Charu, my Arabian dancing girl.
Oh, all right, said Kathy. I'll come.
And everybody came, Dolly and Pudgy and Sal. Now sit down, everybody, Rosie said. They all sat down on folding chairs. Now keep quiet, everybody, said Rosie. The show is about to begin. And they all sat quietly. Rosie and Kathy disappeared behind the cellar door.
This is a good show,
Pudgy whispered. Yeah, it is, said Dolly. Bam, bam, bam came the sound of a drum from behind the cellar door. Ladies and gentlemen, cried a faraway voice, we have for your pleasure Cha-Charu, the Arabian dancing girl. Clap and shout hooray. Everybody shouted and clapped, and the cellar door opened, and Kathy stepped out. She wore a nightgown and had a towel over her head. She waved her arms and took 3 little steps.
Cha-Charu, she sang softly.
That's enough, cried the voice from behind the cellar door. Clap, everybody, and shout hooray. Clap, clap, clap. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Now comes the best part of the show. The voice continued, me, Linda, the lovely lady singer, who will sing for your pleasure on the sunny side of the street. Everybody say oh and ah. Oh, ah, oh, ah. The cellar door opened, and out came Linda. She wore a hat with feathers sticking out, a lady's dress, and high-heeled shoes. Hello, everybody, someone said. Everybody turned and saw Lenny wearing a fireman's hat. Can I play too? He asked. We're not playing, Linda shouted. It's a real show. And you can't. Why? Because. Anyway, I have to put out a fire, said Lenny. Everybody want to come? They all shook their heads. No. Lenny ran out of the yard. Now I'll sing, Linda said. She closed her eyes. On the sun. Want to know something? Asked Lenny. He was back again. What? Said Linda. I know a trick, said Lenny. What trick? Well, first, Lenny explained, I throw my fireman's hat up in the air, and then the one who catches it can keep it. Everybody want to play? They all shook their heads, yes. All right, said Linda. Lenny threw the hat high into the air, and it landed on Rosie's window ledge.
How will we catch it now?
Kathy asked.
We'll have to climb up for it,
said Alinda. So they did. Sal climbed up on top of Pudgy, Dolly climbed up on top of Sal, Kathy on top of Dolly, Lenny on top of Kathy, and Alinda on top of everybody. She took the fireman's hat off the window ledge and put it on her head.
I caught it! It's mine! She shouted. Hooray for me!
They all climbed down.
Now, I'll sing,
Alinda said. She stretched out her arms. On the sun, give me back my hat, said Lenny. I gotta go put out another fire.
No, said Alinda, you said for keeps.
Oh, it was only a game, said Lenny. My mother says I shouldn't give anything away anymore. He pulled the hat off Alinda's head, and he ran out of the yard. Come on, Pudgy, he called. Come on, Sal, help me put the fire out. We better help him, said Pudgy.
Yeah, he needs us,
said Sal.
But,
Alinda began, but they were already gone.
I better go too,
said Dolly.
I didn't sing my song yet,
said Alinda.
I'm hungry,
Dolly answered, and she went home. They were all gone. 2 of the folding chairs lay on their sides.
It's getting late, said Kathy. I have to go home.
Wasn't it a wonderful show? Asked Rosie.
It was the best I ever saw, Kathy answered.
Let's have another one soon.
Same time, same place, said Rosie.
Goodbye, Cha-Cha-Roo.
Goodbye, Alinda.
Rosie was all alone. She climbed on top of a folding chair and said, very quietly,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Alinda will now sing on the sunny side of the street. And she sang the song all the way to the end. The sign on Rosie's door, chapter 4.
Mama,
Rosie asked.
am I your little girl?
Of course, her mother answered.
I mean,
began Rosie. You mean this, said her mother, and she gave Rosie 3 kisses.
I mean, said Rosie, can I have a firecracker?
No, her mother answered.
But it's the 4th of July,
said Rosie. I know, said her mother.
Kathy and Dolly have firecrackers,
said Rosie. I don't believe that, said her mother. They are dangerous, and I do not want my little girl to get hurt.
I am not your little girl, said Rosie. I'm a big girl, and everybody else has firecrackers.
I don't believe that, her mother said. Rosie didn't say a word. Play with your cat buttermilk, said her mother. That would be much nicer.
I don't believe that.
What did you say? Her mother asked. Rosie went out, sat on the steps in front of her house. It was 12 o'clock. Kathy, Dolly, Pudgy, and Sal came and stood in front of her.
It's 12 o'clock,
said Kathy. Time to wait for Magic Man. Rosie went back into the house, and she put on her red blanket. When she came back out, everybody was already seated on the cellar door in the backyard. She sat down next to them. Nobody said a word.
Will he be here soon, Rosie? Dolly asked.
My name is Alinda,
said Rosie. Oh, Alinda? I don't know, said Alinda. We better be quiet, Pudgy whispered. They were quiet. Rosie's cat, Buttermilk, meowed softly and crept into her lap. The moments went by. I hear somebody coming. Quick, said Alinda. Shut your eyes, everybody. They shut their eyes. Hello. It's me. What's the matter with everybody? Everybody opened his eyes. It was Lenny, wearing a cowboy hat. If you want to wait with us, said Linda, sit down and be quiet. All right, said Lenny. He sat down. What are we waiting for? He asked. Magic Man, Pudgy whispered. Oh, said Lenny. Who's... Shh! They were quiet again. I think I saw the leaves move just a little bit, whispered Dolly. He's really coming now, said Alinda. Shut your eyes again. They all shut their eyes again. They all held hands. They listened. They heard Alinda say, hello, Magic Man. Oh, how nice. Yeah, thank you very much. Goodbye. And please give my regards to your wife. They were quiet for a little while. And then, can we open our eyes now? Kathy asked. Yes, said Alinda. Well, I didn't see him, said Lenny. Your eyes were shut, said Dolly. He was very quiet, said Sal. Did he wear a cowboy hat? Lenny asked. Yes, said Alinda. Everybody shouted at the same time. And a mask? And wings? And a blue cape? And earmuffs? Of course, said Alinda. Then it really was Magic Man, Lenny shouted. Of course, they all agreed. What did he tell you, Alinda? Asked Kathy. He told me that I'm not Alinda, the lost girl, anymore. What else? Asked Pudgy. And he told me... What? They all shouted. He told me I could be a big red firecracker! Ooh! And he told me... What? They all shouted. He told me all of you could be little silver firecrackers. Boom! Shouted Dolly. Crack! Fizz! Boom! Shouted Kathy. Whiz bam boom! Shouted Pudgy and Sal. And he told me... What? They all shouted. He told me that we could be firecrackers for the whole 4th of July day. Hooray for Magic Man! Lenny jumped high in the air. Here I come, he said, was boom. Sal stood on his head and said, I didn't go off yet. Kathy and Dolly danced in a circle singing boom, titty, boom, boom, boom. Rosie climbed to the top of the cellar door and yelled, I'm the biggest red firecracker in the whole world, and here I go, boom, boom, boom. They jumped, they ran, they skipped out of Rosie's backyard. They fizzed, they whizzed, they crackled all the way home. Buttermilk meowed softly. Are you tired, honey? Rosie asked. Come on, let's go in the house. She picked up the cat and knocked on the door. Who's there? Asked her mother. It's Alinda, the lovely lady singer, said Rosie. I don't believe that, her mother answered. It's Alinda, the lost girl, said Rosie. I don't believe that either, her mother said.
It's Linda, the big red firecracker. I'm gonna blow the whole house down. Don't do that, said her mother, and she opened the door. Rosie, she said. Didn't you know it was me? Asked Rosie. I thought so, her mother said, but I wasn't sure. I'm tired, Mama, said Rosie. Buttermilk is tired, too. We had a big 4th of July day. I can believe that, her mother said. Why don't you both go to sleep? Rosie picked up the cat and went upstairs to her room. And in a little while, her mother went up to see if they were asleep. She opened the door and saw Buttermilk in bed with the blanket pulled up to his chin, and Rosie curled up on the rug. Rosie, she said. Shh, said Rosie. Buttermilk is asleep. Why are you on the floor, dear? Her mother whispered. Because I'm a sleepy cat, answered Rosie. Oh, said her mother, and she tiptoed out of the room. Good night, she whispered as she closed the door. Meow, answered Rosie.
Hi, I'm Catherine Keener, and I'm going to read from a speech that Maurice wrote when he accepted the Hans Christian Andersen Award. Okay. All my life, I've been fortunate enough to do the work that comes naturally and spontaneously to me, illustrating and writing books for children. Happily, an essential part of myself, my dreaming life, still lives in the potent, urgent light of childhood. In my case, an American childhood composed of strangely concocted elements. I had a conglomerate fantasy life as a child, typical of many first-generation children in America, particularly those in a land called Brooklyn, a regulated, tree-lined ghetto land separated only by a river from the most magical of all lands, New York City, that fantastic place rarely visited but much dreamed of. Mine was a childhood colored with memories of village life in Poland, never actually experienced but passed on to me as persuasive reality by my immigrant parents. On the one hand, I lived snugly in their old country world, a world far from urban society, where the laws and customs of a small Jewish village were scrupulously and lovingly obeyed. And on the other hand, I was bombarded with the intoxicating gush of America in that convulsed decade, the 30s. Two emblems represent that era for me. A photograph of my severe, bearded grandfather, I never actually saw him, which haunts me to this day and which, as a child, I believed to be the exact image of God, and Mickey Mouse. These two lived side by side in a bizarre togetherness that I accepted as natural. For me, childhood was shtetl life transplanted. Brooklyn colored by old world reverberations and Walt Disney, and the occasional trip to the incredibly windowed uptown that was New York, America. All in all, what with loving parents and sister and brother, it was a satisfying childhood. Was it American? Everybody's America is different. As a child, I felt that books were holy objects to be caressed, rapturously sniffed, and devotedly provided for. I gave my life to them, I still do. I continue to do what I did as a child, dream of books, make books, and collect books. As I grew older and could cross that river with ease into a New York that remained magical, my taste and interest in books became more sophisticated. On my own, I discovered artists from all over the world who seemed to speak directly to me, and as a young man trying to discover my creative self, I leaned heavily on these sympathetic friends. They were a very cultivated bunch. My passion for making books has lately led me to a distinct vision of what I want my books to be, a vision difficult to verbalize. I am now in search of a form more purely and essentially my own. In a way, I'd rather have been a composer of operas and songs, and I must turn to music to describe something of what I am after. The concentrated face of Verdi's Falstaff or a Hugo Wolf song, where music and words mix and blend and incredibly excite, defines my ideal. Here, words and music form a magic compound, a something else, more than music, more than words. My wish is to combine, in words and music, faithfully and fantastically, my weird old country, new country childhood, my obsession with shtetl life, its spirit, and the illuminating visions especially loved artists have shown me. All this mixed and beaten and smoothed into a picture book form that has something resembling the lush, immediate beauty of music and all its deep, unanalyzable mystery. Most of all, the mystery. That is the cherished goal. Hans Christian Andersen described his life as a fairy tale, a pronouncement that, taken literally, might provoke a shudder or bring to mind a particular coyness that has often been detrimental to the serious work of writing and illustrating for children. But in the metaphoric sense Andersen intended, I can say the same thing and mean it. As a small boy, I pasted and clipped my bits of books together and hoped only for a life that would permit me to earn my bread by pasting and clipping more bits of books. And here I am, all grown up, at least physically, and still at home making books. I just, on a personal note, I wanted to tell Maurice, I wanted to quote from a Valentine's card my son Clyde wrote to me when he was 8, which was last year, in which he said, "I love you as much as a book loves its reader." Happy birthday, Maurice.
Hi, I'm Spike again, and these are two of my partners that helped make Where the Wild Things Are, the film, and we're here to celebrate another one of our partners' birthday, Maurice. Maurice, happy birthday. This is Max Records, everybody, and Vince Landay, our producer, and Max plays Max. You guys have anything you want to say?
Maurice, we've got a minute of the film here for your birthday, so hopefully for your 81st and a half birthday, we'll have another 89 minutes for you.
Max.
I didn't know he wrote so many books.
And I just want to say that Maurice has been a huge influence on my life, and as a person, as a friend, as an artist, he always has been, and he always will be. And when we first started talking about doing this film, he was insistent on not what you think he'd be insistent on, which was, which was represent this about my book, or this about my book, or this is what the book is about. He was insistent on, to me, making something that was truthful, and making something that respected children, and making something that was personal to me. And he wanted, this book was his, and 40 years ago when he put it out, and he wanted me to make something that was mine, and so thank you, Maurice, for giving me the opportunity. Here's our clip.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
The film is absolutely amazing. I want to thank everybody for coming, and we're almost done. I'm Tony Kushner. Just a couple of pieces of concluding business. The great joy of working on anything, a book, an evening celebration connected to Maurice Sendak, is that you get to spend a lot of time with his work. The witty invention, boldness and economy, subtlety and clarity, keen observation and wild fantasy, wisdom, despair, and joy, both antic and ecstatic. William Blake wrote that singular and particular detail is the foundation of the sublime. And so I want to thank the artists who have participated tonight, along with the staff and crew of this great cradle and home of civilization, the 92nd Street Y. And I want to thank my amazing, indefatigable associate, Andrew Russell, the real brains behind this gathering. But most especially, I want to thank my dear friend, Maurice, for this sublime night. Anika Noni Rose, who won a Tony Award for her role in Caroline or Change, who for my money was the dreamiest dream girl and who stunned audiences on Broadway last season with her Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, was very disappointed when she learned that our celebration tonight would conflict with her filming of the #1 ladies detective agency in Botswana. It's a hard commute, Botswana to Manhattan. So last night, Anika surprised us by emailing us something which she asked us to play for Maurice.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Maurice Sendak, author of some of my favorite books in the world, including Where the Wild Things Are, Chicken Soup with Rice, and Higgledy-Piggledy-Pop. Happy birthday to you. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there. I'm in Africa working, where I've been lucky enough to see a couple of wild things up close. But I am wishing you the best of many more years. Happy birthday.
And now, to bring our celebration to an appropriate conclusion, it gives me great personal pleasure to welcome to the stage a woman who is a personal heroine of mine, one of the great women of New York and one of New York's greatest champions, a defender and advancer of civil rights and human rights, tenants' rights and affordable housing, comprehensive health care and quality education and nutrition and public safety, and a better, more breathable environment, and an important supporter of and enthusiast for the arts, the first openly gay, first female, and first Irish person ever to hold her position, one of the great political talents of our age, and the person who, in my humble opinion, above all others ought to be encouraged to run and then be elected mayor. The Speaker of New York City Council, the inimitable and frankly fabulous New York City Council Speaker, Christine Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony, very, very much. You know, tonight's event is truly a wonderful union of two extraordinary New York City Jewish institutions, ones that for decades have played major roles in the artistic and intellectual life of New York City and our United States. In fact, both Maurice and the 92nd Street Y have celebrated major birthdays this year. Maurice, as we all know, is a newly anointed octogenarian, and the 92nd Street Y just turned 70. And I'm really humbled and was so touched when Tony asked me to be here and to be part of tonight. And I'm thrilled to be here not just as an elected official, but as a long-term and avid admirer of the work and extraordinary artistic accomplishment of Maurice Sendak, and someone who, as the Speaker of the City Council of our great city, wants to thank him for not just being an incredible author, but also for being a great example of what it means to be a New Yorker. You know, as part of my job, I get to go to lots of fun events around the city, but let me tell you, when folks in my office heard that I was coming here tonight for this event, well, when I got in the office this morning, there were so many Maurice Sendak books piled up on my desk with stickums and requests for signing. I think this event had made a big impact in our office. But you know, in all seriousness, the work of this wonderful author, illustrator, composer, and choreographer symbols such a profound and diverse importance for so many people in so many ways, which I think is exactly why so many of my staff people were so very excited that I was coming tonight. You know, and as a speaker and as a reader, as someone who believes in the life-changing impact a book can have on someone's life, and as someone who recognizes, particularly on tough days like today, the importance of an uninhibited imagination, I'm very honored and privileged to do something tonight that sometimes seems like a little trivial part of my job, but is really a very, very important event and an important one tonight, and that's to honor Maurice Sendak with an official New York City Council proclamation. I'd like to say it was very exciting for our proclamation writer. This is the only New York City Council proclamation that has been edited by a Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award winner, so thank you, Tony Kushner, for that. You made Stephen Dudley's day. This will be framed and hung in his office as well. Now, I'm not going to read all of it, but let me read part of it. The Council of the City of New York is proud to honor Maurice Sendak for his extraordinary artistic contributions, nurturing and provoking the imagination of children and adults around the world. And whereas for more than 50 years, the books that Maurice Sendak has written and illustrated have not only enriched the lives of children and adults, they've challenged established ideas about what children's literature is and should be. His unique language and iconic images are so tightly interwoven that they've added new dimensions to both children's literature and to childhood itself. His wonderful books have frightened children around the world, much to their own delight, and his work in theater, ballet, and opera has enthralled audiences far and wide. Therefore, be it known that the Council of the City of New York most gratefully honors Maurice Sendak for his extraordinary contributions and declares this 15th day of September in the year 2008 in all 5 of our boroughs to be Maurice Sendak Day. Ladies and gentlemen, Maurice Sendak.
Okay, all right.
Happy birthday.
Mamma mia, this was great. This was absolutely great. I didn't know anything about it. Tony, who usually cannot keep his mouth shut, refrained from telling me what was going to take place here. I'm really terribly moved. Some of the problems that were mentioned in growing up in New York persist. 80 solves nothing, except the miracle of having reached 80. I don't know what to say. I mean, so many friends were on this stage tonight, and so many people I have worked with and loved and still love. And what it did was ignite in me a feeling of wanting to continue to work. With the world falling down all around us, as it is, and the strangest people coming up, the dimmest of the dimmest nightmare idiots have arrived. So I can only hope and pray that they never read any of my books. Then I would have utterly failed. So this is to say with a full heart, thank you, thank you, thank you.